It is Wednesday the 27th, I think. And yep, it's the 27th. Welcome to Hump Day. We made it. And today we were reading chapters 15 through 17 from the Artifact Enigma from the Daniel Codex, the box series, 99 cents if you want to go and read the whole thing. We are 2 days away from Pizza Friday. You can bring your lunch. It's a Zoom lunch. Everybody's welcome. It's free, if you were wondering. This week, Craig Martell is going to stop by and hang out with us as well. And if you enter, 5 lucky fans will be chosen to get a pizza delivered to their door. But today we're going to read Artifact Enigma, chapters 15 through 17. And also, The Lone Valkyrie, book 3, is out today. And it is live. Amazon, it went quickly today. And hi, Beth. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday. Hi, Diane. And hello, Grace and Mitch. But The Lone Valkyrie, book 3, is out today, so let's see if I can grab that title quickly. Don't know that I'll be able to, probably not. But feel free to go and check it out. The Goth Drow book 3 is on pre-order right now and will be out next week, so you can go and get pre-order. And War Mage Undeniable came out Sunday and is doing super well, and the reviews are fantastic, so thank you very much. And June 1st, next week, Monday, the Lyra Chronicles books 1, 2, and 3 are going to come out with new covers, new material added, and will be on pre-order on June 1st. And so that's a lot of fun, great stuff. Anyway, let's get started with chapter 15 and find out what Daniel is up to. He wasn't sure what he'd expected, but it had been something more than a brownstone that looked identical to every other one on the street. Daniel parked his car on the street and frowned. He stepped out shaking his head. This is ridiculous. Okay, so I've let them convince me other alien visitors are walking around on Earth, but will I really join some rogue team? If we're discovered, they'll throw us in a very dark hole for a long time, and that's if they don't execute us outright. The least I can do is check this shit out. He jogged up the stairs to the front door. There was nothing unusual on the other side of the mostly glass doors, simply a rather nondescript lobby leading to an elevator and a stairwell. Should I ring the bell? Or maybe the whole thing's a big misdirect. They could have a team waiting to ambush me. Daniel shook his head. If they wanted him dead, it'd be far easier to do it somewhere else rather than sending him to some random DC brownstone. The elevator doors opened and a man in a dark suit stepped out. The agent snorted. He knew another CIA agent when he saw one. The man didn't seem tense, and his hands hung loosely at his sides. Not exactly combat stance. The stranger walked over to the doors and tapped away at a keypad. The doors clicked open, and he motioned Daniel inside. We've been expecting you, Daniel. I'm Malcolm White. Feel free to call me Malcolm. Please come with me. I've been told to show you around a little. I'm kind of responsible for keeping an eye on this place when I'm not doing my normal job for the company. He followed the man into the elevator. The guide tapped a code on a keypad near the floor buttons. A small panel slid down, revealing a DNA scanning pad. Malcolm pressed his thumb against the pad, and the elevator descended after a few seconds. He cleared his throat. No one gets in here who doesn't want in here. This is the HQ for our new task force, or whatever you want to call it. The facility has several subterranean levels, but the upper levels have conference rooms and living areas for when people need to keep out of sight, that sort of thing. Everything's secure. Only a small number of people in the entire world know about this building. Right now, you can basically count them using 2 hands. Tim wasn't wrong when he was talking about the need to build up his personnel then, thought Daniel. The elevator doors opened to a room dominated by a huge round table in the center. A large virtual screen covered the back wall. Several workstations with computers and large headphones lined one of the other walls. The screen currently depicted a flat map of the Earth marked with several small triangles in various locations with small notes next to them. Vancouver, Canada, and Munich, Germany had both been marked, but there were easily a dozen other notations on the map. Where's everyone else? Daniel asked. I know you said the team's still small, but I'm guessing it's not only you, Tim, and Nessie. Malcolm shrugged. Tim wanted to be careful, just in case. Come on, you're a spy. In a spy game, you can never be 100% sure about where someone's loyalties lie. That trust thing is an industry rule, thought Daniel. Try not to. You have an entire little mini CIA here. Daniel walked over to the screen, shaking his head. All under the noses of the other alien team and even the agency. Really going out of your way to stack the deck against yourselves, aren't you? Nope, we've got all the resources, but not enough manpower. The Fortis team has a decent head start on us, even if they're clueless. He frowned and turned away from the screen to look at Malcolm. Fortis team? His companion nodded. They're the CIA team that reports directly to the president on this matter. They've loosely allied with other classified projects funded and run by different departments. Project Nephilim has been investigating alien artifacts for a while, but these days they are mostly errand boys for Fortis. Project Ragnarok is a group that's a little more interested in direct evaluation and reaching and contacting aliens, if only to assess them for threats. They also have a heavy focus on creating countermeasures to potential alien technologies or abilities. But those projects dump a lot of time and money into research, both government and civilian. A lot of people working on Ragnarok or Nephilim projects don't even realize who's paying them. It's all unconnected research as far as they're concerned. Daniel nodded and slipped into a chair at the round table. None of this sounds that bad, but I don't understand why you're running a side operation instead of working with the other guys. Tim alluded to some stuff, but I still don't get it. I can't connect the pieces. Malcolm sat a few chairs down from him. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph which slid toward the other agent. He picked up the photograph of what appeared to be a large crater. What's this? That used to be a small town in Colorado. The other man shrugged. The Fortis guys became convinced there was a dangerous alien in the town, so they sent in a team. People started shooting. We still don't know who shot first, but their bosses got concerned when they saw some of the tech on display from the target. Instant matter rearrangement, among other things. Civilians started dying. Other civilians started taking pictures, then someone panicked and things got really bad. Daniel frowned. Meaning what exactly? Officially? Maybe I shouldn't use that word considering how deep into the realms of black ops the Fortis guys operate. Anyway, someone with a lot of influence and authority decided the sacrifice of a few hundred American lives was worth it to keep things under wraps and a single alien under control, one who hadn't even attacked anyone before the team showed up. Also, the Fortis guys decided they needed to send a message with a new type of experimental bomb adapted from alien technology. He sighed. So the town's gone. If you looked hard enough, you'll find news reports about an industrial accident and a mandatory evacuation, followed by another explosion. But there was no evacuation. They took out that alien all right, along with all those people. Daniel's jaw tightened. I haven't heard anything about anything like this. Malcolm nodded. Exactly. There's news out there, and satellite images only back up their story. But you have to go looking to find even that much. Anyone who starts looking too hard ends up disappearing or is convinced to leave well enough alone after a few threatening phone calls or late-night visits. The agent drew a deep breath. And you're sure they had no other choice? Depends on how much you think someone's life is worth. Me? It makes no sense to say they're protecting the Earth from dangerous aliens if it involves killing the very people they're supposed to protect. Things are out of control, and Fortis is all about shooting first and asking questions later. Last time it was a few hundred people, but if they keep that kind of thing up, we could suffer war-level casualties from friendly fire. And that's before we consider that we might push the aliens into doing something equally stupid. One well-placed bomb can wipe out an entire city of millions of people. Daniel furrowed his brow. He wasn't naive enough to believe the government couldn't be ruthless, but annihilating an entire American town was so far over the line, they wouldn't even see it if they looked back with a telescope. Sounds like you need more level heads working on this. People who will at least ask a question or two before they start shooting. Malcolm nodded. That's who we are, the level heads. We've got the knowledge and the resources. Now we're working on recruitment. While we'll never match Fortis's numbers, we need more than we have now if we're going to find alien artifacts before they do. Daniel raised a hand. I get it, I do, and I'm in. But who else are you thinking about? The other man's expression darkened. I just received word that the Fortis guys are looking into an analyst and researcher you've worked with in the past, Ronnie Welch. Apparently, she was poking around into some of the alien symbols and they caught wind of it. I'm sorry. At a minimum, she's burned, and I don't think it'll end there. The agent grimaced. Damn it, that's my fault. I told her to look into the symbols. Then she'd be a good start. If the government is willing to kill hundreds of civilians to keep their secrets buried, they won't blink at killing one CIA employee. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Malcolm narrowed his eyes. We needed to make sure you were with us and not Fortis. He shot out of his seat and rushed toward the elevator. Damn it, I'm sorry, Ronnie, he thought. I underestimated how deep this conspiracy went. The analyst walked down the street toward the nearby bus station. Her earbuds blocked out anything but the show she was listening to. It was a nice night, the clear sky providing a view of a few stars not drowned by light pollution. That's when I add the cinnabar, a gravelly male voice said in your earphones. Can't get the color you want without it. You definitely need gloves and a mask for this, unless you love heavy metal poisoning. I call this part of the procedure shaken, not stirred. He chuckled. The voice belonged to the so-called big gnome, Johnson Latt, an internet streaming and podcast star who specialized in making cool devices and concoctions using a combination of magic and technology. He'd become popular in the last year, but he'd also been dogged by accusations that he was a fraud. His internet name came from the fact that he was unusually large for a gnome. That's legal. Someone's delivering something. That break was brought to you by Leela, the pit bull. His internet name came from the fact that he was unusually large for a gnome and lacked many of their distinguishing facial characteristics. Detractors claimed he was a charlatan, merely a short human pretending to be an Orceran. He'd explained that he was half human on his dad's side, and even though his human genes were more prominent, that wasn't enough for many of his doubters. They also contended that all his demonstrations were fakes, tricks of the camera, especially since magic made it hard to duplicate. It didn't help that Johnson had started his career as a conspiracy theorist. Among other things, he'd had a short-lived internet show where he stated that attributing all ancient alien theories to the Orcerans was wrong, and that they were only one group of aliens among many who had visited the Earth. Ronnie couldn't say she believed him, but it was still interesting. She also didn't care whether he was a half-gnome or a human with unusual abilities. She knew more than most people about the interface between technology and magic and believed in Big Gnome. It helped that he lived in D.C., and she liked the idea of supporting a local guy. As he continued to rattle on about his latest creation, a self-propelled bird automaton, Ronnie's attention drifted away from the podcast and back to earlier in the day. Her hands started shaking and she swallowed. What is up with those symbols, she thought. Someone obviously didn't want me looking into them, but it should be okay. I covered my tracks, and Daniel didn't send me an angry text back. I need to be more careful in the future. Ronnie shook her head, her brow furrowed in determination. She would solve the mystery. All she needed was the time. Two large men in suits closed in on either side of her. She frowned. Some people could be so rude. The men reached for her arms at the same time. There was something terrible and unsettling in their eyes. Her heart rate kicked up. Miss Welch, you'll need to come with us, one of them said. Ronnie ducked and rolled backward. At 5'2", she couldn't take on two grown men, but maybe somebody nearby would help her. There was only one small problem. No one else was on the street, not even a single car. That's what I get for taking a shortcut. One of her abductors smirked. Don't make this hard. You go away right now. Ronnie hopped to her feet and reached inside her purse. This is your chance. I'll let you go if you run now, she stammered. The men rolled their eyes and advanced. She yanked a Gumby out of her purse and held it up. The first man scoffed. Is that supposed to scare us? Ronnie yanked the toy hard on both sides. With a hiss, a thick, noxious green gas poured into the face of the first oversized man. He collapsed to the ground coughing and squeezing his eyes shut. His accomplice glared at her. You're dead, bitch. Another trip into her purse brought up a tiny Barbie doll. Barbie shoe! Back off. What are you, a fucking toy store? Ronnie threw the shoe at his feet and spun. The bright flash lit up the entire area, turning night into day. The second man fell to his knees, holding his eyes. I'm fucking blind! She sprinted toward the corner. The headquarters building wasn't that far away. She grabbed her phone to dial the police. What the heck? No service. I can literally see a cell tower right over there, Ronnie shouted. She kept running toward the CIA, huffing and puffing. All those spinning classes were finally paying off. Thank God she wore sensible shoes. Sweat streamed down her face, and her heart thundered as she approached the front gate. She had slowed her pace to a jog as she spotted a couple of agents standing in front of the gate. One held a box. She ran up to them and leaned over, her hands on her knees as she tried to catch her breath. The agent dropped the box right in front of her. It contained all her personal effects from her desk, along with her array of little toys. Huh? Ronnie lifted her head, her stomach churning from fear and exertion. Two men were after me and I can't call the police. They might be jamming my phone. The agent who had dropped the box held out his hand, palm up. I hereby inform you that your security clearance has been revoked, and your employment with the Central Intelligence Agency has been terminated, effective immediately. Give me your badge or you will go to jail on suspicion of espionage. Espionage? But I never. Tears welled in the corners of her eyes. I won't repeat myself, Miss Welch. The agent reached into his jacket, resting his hand on his gun. Ronnie sighed and pulled out her badge and ID card, and she handed them over. I've done nothing wrong. I'm sure you believe that. He nodded at the box. Now take your crap and get out of our sight before I change my mind. She wiped her tears on her sleeve and picked up her box. They obviously didn't know what her toys did. There was no way they'd give them back to her otherwise. Who were those guys earlier, she thought. CIA muscle, contractors? What should I do? With a sigh, Ronnie began walking away from the front gate, this time in the opposite direction. She looked over her shoulder, but the agents had already started back toward the building. There was no sign of the thugs. She continued walking, putting one foot in front of the other, not even sure where she was going. Another bus stop, maybe. She wasn't sure how many minutes had passed when a black Jaguar screeched to a halt beside her. Now what? Is some hitman going to gun me down? Ronnie was too depressed to care. The passenger side window dropped and she looked over. Daniel was watching her with visible relief on his face. They burned you, it looks like. Sorry I'm late. She nodded. Yeah, guess that also explains my phone losing service. Going to need to get a new one. Numbly, she pulled her phone out of her pocket and initiated a factory reset. The agent frowned. But they didn't hurt you? Some guys tried, but I got away. Ronnie sighed. I don't even know why. Wait, the symbols. I thought I'd covered my tracks, but obviously I didn't do it well enough. Daniel sighed and averted his eyes. Damn it, get in. This is all my fault. She opened the back door to deposit her things on the seat before slipping into the passenger side. No, it's my fault for being sloppy. I should have taken it more seriously. I never thought the CIA would be the ones coming after me, though. The agent pulled away from the curb. I'll give you a choice. I can explain the truth, but once I do, there might be no going back. Otherwise, you can go on with your life and pretend you never saw those symbols. My life's already over, so might as well dig deeper into the hole. Ronnie remained silent during Daniel's explanation of Tim's new team, the truth of non-Orosarian aliens, and how the government had murdered hundreds of innocent people as a show of strength to cover up the truth. Her response was fairly phlegmatic, all things considered. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Daniel sighed. I know what you mean. We've both been involved in some weird stuff, but somehow this is still almost too weird to believe. Anyway, the way I see it, since you've been burned, you need something to do with your time. The team could use someone with your talents. Ronnie sighed. You got me into this. Accidentally, but yeah, Daniel shrugged. I'm sorry. She rubbed the back of her neck. When I first got out of school, my mom told me I should go work for a startup company. She said I could make a bunch of money and then never have to work for the rest of my life, but no, I wanted to serve my country. I guess it's not too late to go make money. He scoffed. Do you want to? His companion wiped a new tear away. No, but what choice do I have? I'm lucky they didn't already make me disappear. She wrapped her arms around herself. They still might if everything you said was true. The agent shook his head. No, I'll make some calls and pull some strings. Since they've already burned you, there's no reason to go further, and I'll make it clear that people will be watching. These Fortis assholes want less attention, not more, so the question to you is simple. What's that? Do you want to look for work in some startup, or do you want to save worlds? Ronnie stared down at her hands. All I ever wanted to do was help protect people. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath and nodded. I'm in. Good, Daniel smiled. I've already done my part of building up the team, though if you know anyone else you could possibly trust, let me know. This'll be hard. We're talking about a team of people on the fringe with skills, but who still care enough to want to protect their country and planet in a situation most people wouldn't believe, even with Orosarian being a thing. She nibbled on her lip for a few seconds. Now that you mention it, I think I might know someone. Chapter 16. Diane! I'm sorry you had to go to a staff meeting, and yes, Leela had a lot to say today, yes. I found a air fryer on sale, and I think it's now sitting outside my front door. But that'll be after I finish reading. Chapter 16. Ronnie inhaled deeply. This could work if she could convince her potential recruit that she wasn't a stalker. She raised her fist, knocked lightly on the door, and waited. I can't believe this. What am I doing? I'm trying to recruit people for a super secret task force that even the CIA can't know about. A few seconds later, the door buzzed and a familiar voice rang out from a hidden speaker. Who are you? Asked Big Gnome. I don't recognize you, and you don't seem like you're here to sell me anything dressed in an outfit like that. My name is Ronnie Welch. I'm a big fan of your show, but I'm not here to talk about that. I mean, I know about you from your show, but it's got nothing to do with that. Not directly, well, kind of indirectly. She groaned and rubbed the back of her neck. It'll make more sense once I start explaining, but it's not really the kind of thing I can talk to you about in a hallway through a speaker. It'd been a week since she'd been burned. Even though she tracked Big Gnome's address down immediately, she had needed to investigate his background further and work up the courage to talk to him. She had also gotten a new and secure phone, courtesy of the team. On paper, Big Gnome appeared to be a good candidate, and they would monitor his communications for the next few days in case he reacted poorly to her offer. The last thing they needed was for him to call the FBI and leak their offer to Fortis. What are you here to talk about? He asked. You didn't seem to have a very good idea earlier. Sorry, I got a bit flustered. Ronnie pursed her lips, lacing her fingers together. But it's a unique job opportunity, one that no one else can offer you. So please let me in, and I can talk to you about this fulfilling opportunity to really put your abilities and skills to the test. Big Gnome didn't respond, and Ronnie sighed. Of course he wouldn't let some random woman he didn't know into his place. She could be a serial killer for all he knew, or some crazy transforming Orosaran monster. I should have had Daniel talk to him. This was doomed to fail from the beginning. She turned to leave. The door clicked open, and Big Gnome stepped out in jeans and a t-shirt that read King of Makers. Even though he was tall for a gnome, or half gnome anyway, she still had a couple of inches on him, but his fuller face and normal ears reflected his human side. He gestured at her to enter. Take a giant step for mankind and let's get talking. Ronnie managed a little chuckle. Moonraker, right? Big Gnome grinned. You're already impressing me, Miss Ronnie Welch, but you can call me Ronnie. She stepped inside his living room. There were a couple of recliners, but most of the space was taken up by huge tables covered with tools and small projects in various states of disarray. Some had power tools and others racks of colorful chemicals. I bet his lease doesn't want him smelting mercury ore in his apartment, but we could probably learn a lot from each other about making gadgets. Ronnie headed over to one of the recliners to take a seat. It was on the smaller side and comfortable enough for her small frame, but she could see how Daniel might have had a problem. She rubbed her wrist. So do you like to go by Big Gnome or Johnson or Lat? Big Gnome. My handle is my life. I sometimes think about changing my legal name to Big Gnome. He shrugged. Maybe you think that's pretentious, but that's what I like. Okay then, I'll just call you that. Ronnie swallowed and took a few deep breaths. Big Gnome or Mr. Big Gnome? Just Big Gnome. He sat down in the other recliner. So you mentioned a unique job opportunity. That's a hell of a hook, and I hope you won't disappoint me. She nodded quickly. Yes, I'm very familiar with your work, and I share a similar interest in tinkering. I thought if you had access to more money and resources, you'd be able to up your game. Really challenge your limits and see what you're capable of. Big Gnome nodded, not disagreeing. I make a decent living making cool things on camera. I've got to deal with haters and drama, but it's not a bad life. To be honest though, it's not nearly as lucrative as everyone thinks. So who do you work for? Some media company that wants to help fund a bigger show for me? Not exactly. Ronnie leaned forward. You see, it's not only your skills I'm interested in, but rather your open mind. He furrowed his brow. My open mind. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her new phone, and brought up a close-up image of the alien symbols from the nozzle. Ever seen these before? Big Gnome leaned forward and stared at the symbols. Nope, don't recognize them. The only thing I can tell you is they aren't gnomic, but I'm not an expert on all languages Earth or Orosaran. Ronnie took several deep breaths in a feeble attempt to calm her pounding heart. It wouldn't matter even if you were. What do you mean? Let me tell you a little story about aliens. 20 minutes later, she finished her explanation. It comes down to a simple question, Big Gnome. Do you want to make internet videos only a few people watch, or do you want to save worlds? He hopped out of his recliner, frowning, and paced back and forth. He muttered something under his breath. Ronnie couldn't pick out any word but crazy. Does he even believe me? Sure, I had my picture of the symbols and a few government documents, but it's not like someone couldn't fake those. He probably thinks I'm a conspiracy theorist, stalker, nutjob who has latched onto him because he's semi-famous. She clenched her hands so her companion couldn't see the trembling. He stopped and spun to face her. His frown turned to a huge grin. I knew it. Excuse me? Knew what? I knew it, Big Gnome yelled. Everyone said I was a dumbass, that we didn't need to even talk about aliens anymore because we could explain away everything about aliens, ancient or modern, by merely assuming some Orosarian did it. But believing in actual aliens from space? Well, that's something only idiots and conspiracy theories believed in. Fools. Intellectual dead-enders. He pointed a thumb at himself. But it's all damn true, and I was right all along. Ronnie nodded. Yes, but keep in mind, if you join our group, it's not like you'll be able to talk about it. I already told you what happened and what the Fortis team was willing to do. Your life could be at risk. He waved a hand dismissively. Being in on the truth is its own reward, and a little danger? That's part of the Big Gnome brand. I'm totally willing to join your team, but I have an employee I need to bring with me. She sighed. I only approached you because I checked out your background and you look like someone we could use who could keep his mouth shut. How do I know this employee can keep a secret? Because she's a pixie who has worked for several of my cousins. They're all involved in under-the-table magic stuff. Trust me, any secret organization needs good clerical support, and she's great at that kind of thing. She's got a mouth on her, but she knows how to keep it shut when it counts. Big Gnome shrugged. She's pretty put out right now that my cousin can't give her enough work. It annoys her, and boy, is that not good. She likes to work a lot of jobs, sometimes 2 or 3. Don't know, maybe it's a pixie thing. She'd love to find another job, especially one where she won't have to deal with new clients constantly, and this sounds perfect for her. Okay, I guess I should go meet her. What's her name? Madge. You'll love her. In a love-hate kind of way. A short drive later, they pulled up in Big Gnome's Corvette to the front of an office building. She followed him as he stepped into the lobby, nodded to a security guard, and walked over to an elevator. I rent space on the second floor, he explained. It helps keep the crazies from showing up at my door. Except when they do research. He winked at her. Ronnie's cheeks warmed. We won't be able to talk about this here. It's not safe. There could be someone spying or something. This is sensitive information. Your place was one thing, but who knows what kind of monitoring they might be doing in this office building. Big Gnome waved a hand and pulled out a pen. Don't worry. This doesn't last long, but it's something I made and never talked about on my show. It'll keep our conversations private enough. The elevator dinged and the doors opened. They walked to the end of the hall where a small sign read, Lat Productions in Comic Sans. She tried to hide her smirk, but failed. Her companion grinned. Yeah, I know. Not all that professional, but I don't care. I figured if I have to do the boring parts of running a business, I'd do it my way, and not worry if some suit is offended because of my font choice. That's also part of the Big Gnome brand. They stepped into the office. A massive desk sat in the center with a few chairs in front of it. A tiny chair, only a few inches high, stood on the back of the desk with an equally small stand right in front of it. If it were larger, Ronnie might consider it a podium, but it seemed like an odd term to use for something more appropriate for a hamster than a person. She saw something move from the corner of her eye and yelped, backpedaling a few steps. Well, that's rude, came a deep voice. The owner was a winged pixie, fluttering at eye level and pear-shaped rather than being some sort of svelte Tinkerbell. She wore a tiny black skirt and a white blouse. The ensemble was completed by cat-eye glasses. The voice was so gravelly that Ronnie found herself looking for a miniature cigarette somewhere. It'd complete the 50s vibe the pixie had going on. Big Gnome chuckled. Don't sneak up on people, Madge. Wait, do those wings work through normal physical principle, or is there magic? They don't look large enough to support someone that heavy. Wow, the bumblebee theory in a pixie. She shouldn't be able to lift off and fly, but there she is. Ronnie sighed, trying to push the thought out of her head. The heavyset pixie had a voice like a teamster. Who is this woman? The creature flittered around Ronnie's head before hovering right in front of her nose. She doesn't look that smart. You taking in strays now, BG? The woman gasped. Wow, he wasn't lying when you said you have a mouth on you. I'm merely someone who really believes in telling it like it is. Lies don't help anyone, honey. Ronnie looked at Big Gnome. He smiled and clicked his pen. She took a deep breath. Time to get right to it. I'm recruiting people for a secret semi-rogue task force to investigate non-Orosarian aliens. Your boss says you might be a good asset. Any organization needs clerical support, and he says you know how to keep your mouth shut. Will there be snacks? Madge asked, her voice as gravelly as ever. Not a hint of a smile showed on her face, and her hands settled on her hips as her wings fluttered behind her. Snacks? Pixie nodded and crossed her arms. Yeah, free snacks. I'm small, so it's not like it'll cost you a lot. Ronnie blinked. She wasn't sure what pixies ate. She shrugged. I'm sure we can arrange some. You don't have any other questions? Even though I just talked about something shocking and weird? Something that challenges everything people believe about history? Madge shook her head. I like to learn on the job. The important thing is the snacks. I guess we all have our priorities. And that's chapter 16. We're going to do one more. Friday will be pizza day. Leela's now asleep, snoring behind me, so the excitement is over. Bring your lunch for Zoom and get a chance to chat with Craig Martell and me and whoever else shows up, and it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun every week. I can't travel to where you are this year to get lunch like I normally do, so this is a way we can all come together. Chapter 17. Daniel stepped into the cubicle farm where Ronnie had worked until a couple of days prior. He kept reminding himself that she was okay, but he couldn't stop the guilt that stabbed him. If those two men on the street had caught her, she might have ended up as another missing person, a victim of a dangerous conspiracy dumped in an unmarked grave. For the moment, at least, she spent her time at the brownstone, safe from any troublemakers. There wasn't even any evidence they were still interested in her. No one was watching her apartment, and no one had tried to hack her accounts. Maybe Fortis, or whatever had been behind getting her fired, figured they'd made their point, especially since, as far as they knew, she no longer had access to company resources to pursue an investigation. If they're going by her psychological profile, they'd have no reason to believe she'd continue to cause trouble. She's not a troublemaker, thought Daniel. She would never have even looked into that without me prodding her. Looking for Welch? Agent Buckley asked behind him. Daniel forced himself to relax and turned to face him. It was the first time he'd been back at headquarters since Ronnie was burned, and he didn't want to give anyone reason to suspect him. Yeah, I am. Where is she? The man shrugged. Who knows? He snorted. You're real helpful. The other agent looked around and leaned in. You didn't hear? Hear what? She's out. Burned. Buckley shrugged again, the gesture eloquent. They say she was using company resources to look into things for personal reasons, maybe even trying to make some cash off of it. It's hard to believe that little mouse would do something like that, but it's always the quiet ones. He scratched his stubble. Daniel frowned. You've grown a beard? I haven't seen that much growth on you in a long time. His companion chuckled. Nah, just I'm not trying to. Been busy and, forget sometimes. His eyes darted back and forth and he released a nervous chuckle. You okay, Buckley? He snorted. Yeah, why wouldn't I be? That mission to Kiev, damn. Sometimes I even impress myself, but I'm just tired. Come on, you never get tired after a long mission? Whatever. He smirked, but something about it looked forced. And I guess I was wrong. Daniel looked him up and down. The man kept rubbing his fingers together, his arms hanging at his side. Wrong? Yeah, I always figured you were banging Welch. Because I paid attention to her when no one else did? Buckley nodded. Yeah, if she tried, she might be hot, but I also thought she might be a hellcat in a sack or something. He shrugged. It doesn't matter. I guess you weren't doing her if you didn't even know they burned her. A loud crash sounded from the corner of the room. Agent Buckley ducked and rolled behind the desk. Sorry, a woman called from across the way. Just knocked some stuff over. The agent remained crouched by the desk for several seconds, taking deep breaths and his face red. What the fuck is going on with him, thought Daniel. Daniel was about to ask when Buckley popped up and straightened his tie, an obviously fake smile on his face. I've got crap to do. See you around. He blurted the words, spun on his heel, and hurried to the elevator. Why are you so nervous? Were you checking on me, Buckley? Are you with them? Are you responsible for burning her? He gritted his teeth and took a deep breath. He couldn't trust anyone. Daniel's hands clenched into fists and he stepped off the elevator. He immediately uncurled his fingers and forced a charming smile on his face as he gave a polite nod to several SAD workers on his way to Nessie's office. It'd been a couple of days since his run-in with Buckley, and the encounter refused to leave his mind. The other agent was obviously up to something, and Daniel was willing to bet it involved Ronnie. Does he know that I'm the one who told her to research the symbols? He shook his head. Buckley had avoided him since then, which only made him more suspicious. For now, he had to concentrate on not acting suspicious himself. If he gave the man any reason to come after him, it might unravel everything Timothy was building. Just another day at work, thought Daniel. Back at a place where some hidden team who helped blow up a town tried to take out a good and loyal American. And that part's my fault. It took all his concentration to keep smiling as he made his way to Nessie's office and closed the door behind him. The longer I can last in the agency, the more resources we'll have to look into the aliens. If they're a threat, we can help stop them without any more panicky, ridiculous responses that hurt innocent people. If they aren't, we can't stop Fortis and the rest of the government from overreacting and starting a war. Nessie looked Daniel up and down as he sat. Are you all right? I've been better. It's been a rough week. He wanted to have a more open conversation, but they both knew that the excessive use of anti-surveillance devices would raise suspicion. Given that Ronnie had already been burned and Buckley might be watching him, they needed to be even more careful. If Fortis could prove Timothy and Nessie were involved, things probably wouldn't end the way they have with Ronnie and two thugs on the street. I won't let any other loyal agents get taken out or burned, thought Daniel. Nessie nodded. We all were surprised by what happened to Miss Welch, but we have to concentrate on moving forward. It's not unusual in our line of work for these sorts of disappointments to pop up. Daniel furrowed his brow. He wondered if he should mention Buckley, but he had no real proof the man was anything but an overworked agent. The last thing he wanted to do was point Nessie or Timothy at him and end up making the man's life harder if he wasn't an enemy. It wasn't like they could discuss it there anyway. I've barely started my deep cover life buried inside a conspiracy, and I'm already messed up and seeing trouble everywhere. Nice, thought Daniel. Yeah, it sucks, but that's the job, he responded. Nessie inclined her head. We should concentrate on your next mission. Daniel managed to smirk. The sentence worked on a few different levels. I've been bored since my last mission was completed anyway. If anyone were listening, he wanted them to hear the same cocky agent everyone expected. The more he acted like everything was normal, the less suspicious they'd be. Nessie nodded. Good. Although this next mission might not be as stimulating as you hope. Does it involve another dead guy regrowing his own liver? She shook her head. Nope, it's far more straightforward. We've received reports that a ring of burglars has terrorized London and that they might be using a magical artifact. We want you to investigate and recover it before M15 or M16 get involved. I think that's MI5 or MI6 get involved. Everyone we control adds to the safety and security of the United States. Daniel laughed. I like how many artifacts we steal out from underneath our allies' noses. Orosirin changes a lot, and it's not like the British don't do it to us too when they get a chance. At least this doesn't seem to be a weapon. He shrugged. I'll get whatever they're using. What goodies will I get this time to catch the bad guys? Nessie reached behind the desk and grabbed a small box. Directional EMP, chameleon ball. Please tell me it lasts longer. She nodded. We've refined it, so we can guarantee 5 minutes, although I'm not sure it'll be necessary. Daniel nodded. Have a stun pin that works? They're still testing those after your failure and those of a few other agents. He snapped his fingers. Damn. What else? In addition, we've got AR glasses for you, a magnetic grapple gun, and jump pads. Grapple gun? The agent furrowed his brow. And what's a jump pad? Nessie smiled. Additional details will be in your briefing file, but these thieves tend to use advanced mobility techniques, including Parker, that may or may not be enhanced by the artifact. You might end up on a rooftop or two, and we'd like you to be able to keep up. The jump pads will be added to the bottom of your shoes, and they'll increase your jumping distance, but they have a limited number of uses. This ought to be interesting. I'm guessing you don't want me to gun these guys down. Petty thievery doesn't seem like it deserves summary execution. Daniel shrugged. A trail of bodies would cause a lot more trouble than the agency would like at the moment. They aren't known for being particularly violent, so you should need minimum force, but I've also come up with another solution. She reached into the box and picked up a small tray holding a half-dozen silver capsules. Prototype immobilization capsule. Agents have had trouble trying to use sonic grenades or stun weapons against some magicals who might have resistance to electricity, but most of them aren't much stronger than a normal human. You simply press the top and bottom together and throw them. Upon contact, they blast out a little quick-hardening polymer web around the target. It should wrap around them and harden in seconds. The material weakens with exposure to oxygen though, so it'll only hold them for maybe 30 minutes at most. Use this to take them down, then use something else to keep them down. Daniel picked up one of the capsules and eyed it with a smile. I can work with this. He set it back in the tray. What do we have on the artifact these thieves are supposed to be using? We've not confirmed it, but the rumors suggest it's a glowing medallion. We've received conflicting information about what it might do. Some reports suggest it increases mobility, and others suggest that it allows people to pass through walls. It might even do both. It also remains unclear whether it only works on one person or if it works on a group of people in a certain radius. We only know the local authorities and bounty hunters haven't been able to track them down. Even when they get close, the thieves get away. Not the most detailed background information. Any backup for me this time? Nessie shook her head. The agency doesn't feel that this mission warrants that use of resources at this time. A hint of irritation colored her voice. He wondered if this meant Fortis had pulled some strings to make his life harder. Ronnie wasn't his exclusive backup, but his proximity to her and Timothy would raise suspicion. Okay then, let's start signing this stuff out. I have to go steal from some thieves. She pushed the electronic pad forward and Daniel moved over to sign it. The SAD director leaned forward to whisper in his ear. Don't worry, Daniel. You'll get used to being a rogue agent soon enough. Daniel slammed his car door shut and activated his alarm as he stared at the lit-up London Eye. The giant Ferris wheel made for an impressive sight, perhaps more so at night. Wonder what it'd be like to go after the thieves on that thing. He wasn't sure if he'd ever get used to being a rogue agent, but for now, the London mission let him concentrate on a problem he could handle himself. Ronnie, Big Gnome, Madge, Malcolm, and some of the others were still getting settled in, and Timothy was still evaluating the next best move for their team. Recovering an artifact that helped people steal rather than blow up towns or rearrange their molecules would be a nice breather, almost a vacation compared to what he dealt with in recent weeks. Just a nice mission, clear targets, no CIA betrayal or secret teams, a little palate cleanser. Daniel shook his head and headed down the street, glancing at his watch. The lack of backup was annoying, but he could make up for it with the help of a skilled local professional. A few blocks later, he stepped into an alley. A tall woman in a long coat leaned against the wall. She looked at him from under her brown bangs. It's been a while, love. Still going by Daniel, right? Just the way things worked out, Serena. She pushed away from the alley wall. I trust you've got no problem with the fee we discussed. I only want the artifact. Whatever other loot they're carrying is yours. Serena grinned. Then you've got yourself a little backup, cowboy. And lucky for you, I've done all the hard work this time. I know when and where they'll strike tonight. Why bother working with me then? Because it helps to have a nice strapping cowboy helping me, and it doesn't hurt to earn a few points with someone I might need to ask for a favor in the future. She checked the time on her phone. We've got about an hour to get set up. Just to be very clear on this, I'm not interested in stopping them. I want whatever it is they're going to steal. The agent nodded. Duly noted. Daniel adjusted the magnification on his AR glasses and switched to thermal mode. 8 heat signatures, all human or roughly human, from what he could tell, made their way up the stairs in the building next to them. There might be some elves in the mix, but he doubted it. If they had access to a magical, they wouldn't rely on an artifact. Something rumbled in the distance. This is why I hate outdoor jobs. So hard to keep track of what I should be paying attention to. They're almost at the roof. Serena slipped on leather gloves, laced her fingers together, and stretched her arms above her head. This ought to be bloody fun, love. He smirked. You know what? You're right. It probably will be. No mass death or terrorists or strange-ass creatures. Merely a few thieves with a trinket. Can't remember the last time I had a mission this straightforward. She laughed. You smile all the time, but you don't always enjoy life, cowboy, do you? I've had a shitty week. He narrowed his eyes and continued to track the thermal signatures. Only a couple more floors. Serena spread her feet and smiled at the roof access door. Daniel tapped the side of his glasses, turning off the thermal scan mode. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an immobilization capsule. All he needed to do was find whoever had the artifact. He'd let Serena worry about chasing the others and getting her precious loot. This is going well. Should be an easy pickup. The rumble grew in volume. Hear that noise? She shrugged. It's London, love. It's a noisy city. Let's concentrate on the task at hand. The door flew open, and 8 men with ski masks rushed out in single file. They stopped and looked at the 2 of them. Who the hell are you? One of the men asked. Daniel gritted his teeth. Every one of the men had a medallion. Either they all had artifacts, or they were smart enough to hide it. 2 of them wore backpacks. So much for easy. Do they have loot in the backpacks, or is it one of the medallions? Serena shot them a smile. We're here to rob you, my love. They snorted as a group. The agent raised his hand, ready to throw an immobilization capsule at one of the men with a backpack, best to play the odds. A roar preceded the approach of powerful winds, and a dark shadow spread over the roof. Daniel spun around in time to see a VTOL landing craft hovering above the roof. The side doors opened, and 6 nylon drop lines fell from the craft. A second later, gloved men slid down the lines and hit the roof, all with stun rods in hand. They weren't in uniform, but they all wore jackets with matching crests. Of course, just my fucking luck. It's been a while, the leader said with a smile. Daniel shrugged. It's been that kind of day. Who the hell is he? Serena barked. John Hollingsworth V, current CEO and leader of Hollingsworth Retrieval Specialists. What are a bunch of bloody Tomb Raiders doing here? The agent shrugged. Same thing I am, probably. Although it didn't seem worth their time, given the kinds of things they typically go after, he thought. John gave Daniel a lopsided grin. Stay out of this, Daniel. Sorry, I can't do that. I'm here on the job. The thieves sprinted towards the roof's edge. They broke into 4 groups of 2 and headed in different directions. Serena's head jerked between the 2 men with backpacks. They weren't in the same group. After a moment, she hurried after one of the men. The Hollingsworth men rushed after the thieves, with John going after a man without a backpack. Daniel's stomach knotted, and he rushed after the same man. Always trusted Tomb Raider to know where the real treasure was. He pulled out a jammer and activated it. John frowned and looked over his shoulder. The CIA agent grinned at him. Having a little trouble with your comm? The other man snorted and continued running. The thieves leapt off the edge of the building, landing with perfect rolls in the next roof. The Tomb Raider jumped a second later and landed with far less grace. Daniel followed and blinked, surprised by the extra boost from his jump pads. He cleared the edge of the building easily and landed hard on the nearby roof. Quickly, he stood and rushed after the thieves. Several men shouted from another rooftop, victims of Serena's fist or Hollingsworth's stun rod. Daniel tossed his immobilization capsule at one of the men. A web of tendrils exploded on contact and wrapped around the thief. He fell to the ground with a yelp. John rushed past him and threw an elbow. The CIA agent ducked, then replied with an uppercut that narrowly missed his enemy. They exchanged a few quick punches, but neither man could get past each other's blocks. Daniel jumped back and pulled out another immobilization capsule. John frowned and leapt to the side as his opponent pulled back his arm. The capsule sailed past the Tomb Raider and narrowly missed a thief. The burglar jumped off the building's edge to the fire escape stairs. With a quick push off the railing, he was on the ground. John broke away from Daniel and rushed toward the edge of the roof. He stopped and shook his head. Damn. The agent sprinted to the edge and jumped off. He pulled out his grapple gun and fired it at a nearby landing. The line unspooled and he swung down toward the fleeing thief, feet first. He smacked into the man's head and sent him face first into the hard pavement. Daniel released the magnetic lock on the gun and dropped to the ground. He hurried to the stunned man and bound his hands with a zip tie. He yanked the medallion off the man's neck and stared at it. The thief spat out some blood and grinned. Wrong. The agent hopped back to his feet and fired his grapple gun at the roof he'd just been on. With the help of the power line retraction, he quickly climbed the building. John was gone, but the other thief lay entangled by the polymer with his medallion still around his throat. A rumble from the landing craft caught Daniel's attention. It had stopped hovering right over the original building and floated slowly toward him. The doors remained open and the Hollingsworth men had boarded it again. What the fuck? When did that happen? John grinned down from above and nodded toward a man sitting across from him. A glowing medallion hung around his neck. You son of a bitch, Daniel yelled. You purposely led me to the wrong guy. He yanked out his directional EMP device, a long black tube, and pointed it at the vehicle. John narrowed his eyes and twisted a ring on his finger. A pulsating green field surrounded the aircraft. Daniel activated the EMP, which buzzed and hissed as it discharged. The green field flashed, but the aircraft didn't go down. Damn it. The Tomb Raider waved and the engines folded down before the vehicle roared away into the London night. Daniel scrubbed a hand over his face and looked around. A few of the thieves lay on the ground, but Serena was nowhere in sight. He wasn't there to clean up the local petty crime. He had to get the artifact that John Hollingsworth now had. Ronnie gets burned, and now I lose the artifact. What a great week. I could use a drink. Daniel sighed as he pushed into W&M's. The quiet, upscale English pub was never too packed, but also never too empty, with the crowd split mostly between the bar and the leather booths in the back. The light rock wasn't playing too loud, and there were no televisions to distract anyone from their conversation or drinks. A few people looked at him as he made his way to a booth. He waited, taking a few deep breaths until the waitress arrived. "Give me an IPA. I don't really care which." The waitress chuckled. "That great a night?" Daniel nodded. "Exactly." She smiled and headed toward the bar. A minute later, she returned with his drink. "Thanks." He picked up the glass and took a long pull. The waitress moved to a different booth. He took the opportunity to set down his silence cue. The quiet chatter and music didn't bother him, but he had one last chance to try to salvage his trip to London. The agency might not be happy with him, but he could at least help Timothy's team. Daniel had finished half his drink when Daisy stepped into the bar. She headed toward the booth and slipped into the seat across from him. "Glad you could make it," he muttered. She smiled. "I was between jobs and happened to get your message. How could I pass up a chance to chat with my favorite?" Her gaze flicked to the cue. "My favorite CIA agent." He shrugged. "I was here on other business, so I thought we could chat." "About what? What you owe me for saving your butt in Munich?" Daniel chuckled. "Maybe, but I was actually thinking about doubling down on owing you." The elf leaned forward, resting her elbow on the table and her chin in her palm. "I do like people owing me things. Go on." "You're a lot older than me." Daisy smirked. "You sure know how to flatter a woman, don't you? And you're from a planet with a lot of different intelligent species. Sure, with the full return of magic, we're finding more than a few hidden creatures on Earth, too. But it's not like Serena, where you've had thousands and thousands of years to get used to thousands of species." The elf chuckled. "Humans can barely handle getting along with each other, and they're the same species. I sometimes even find it amazing myself that things like the Great Treaty lasted as long as they did on Serena. But why point out any of this?" Daniel frowned and leaned forward. "Ever wonder if there's more out there? More? Species?" She frowned. "On Serena?" The agent shook his head. "No," he pointed up. "From there. What if I were to tell you that Serena and Earth aren't the only planets with intelligent life forms?" Daniel gulped down some more beer. "And not only that, but there's at least one other planet with intelligent beings and advanced technology that makes Earth's technology look like nothing and gives Serena magic a run for its money." Daisy's smile slowly faded. "What are you getting at, Daniel?" "Let me tell you a little story." The elf sat there quietly for several minutes after Daniel finished his explanation. He'd laid out everything Timothy and Nessie had told him, but as before, he'd kept any mention of the Munich gun to himself. "I'm a rogue in my rogue group. Somehow that seems fitting," he thought. She cleared her throat and furrowed her brow. "Why are you telling me all this?" "Because we need more people, and you're damn qualified. I've got a pretty good nose for figuring out who might backstab me for bullshit reasons and who won't." Daisy smirked. "How do you know I won't simply sell you out?" Daniel shrugged. Where's the profit in that? "The truth is, if you contacted the Fortis guys, they'd simply kill me and then they'd kill you. These guys didn't think anything of murdering innocent civilians. They have absolutely no reason to hold back against a mercenary elf." She frowned. "Okay, fair enough. But that still doesn't answer the most important question." "And what is that?" "Why should I join your little escapade?" A huge grin broke out on his face. "First of all, Tim can pay well. Besides, do you want to work for others for the rest of your very long life? Or do you want to use a few of those years or decades to save worlds?" Daisy ran a hand through her hair and sighed. "What can I say? At the very least, it should be interesting." And that is it for today. And thank you, Mitch. That's a very sweet thing to say. Tomorrow we will read 18, 19, and 20 of the Artifact Enigma. In the meantime, there's lots of new books to read. There's War Mage Undeniable. There's the new Lone Valkyrie that came out today. And you can pre-order a lot of books, such as Gothdrow. Hope you all are having a good Wednesday, the 27th. June 1st is Monday. June 1st. We're already at halfway. I hope you all are finding some fun in the day. Take good care of each other and yourselves. And I will talk to you tomorrow.